When I think about Joseph, he went through so much before he got into his promise. He was in jail, he got all these things happen to him, but when it got really bad and he gave up or wanted to give up, the dream reminded him that he can go on. So if it's in you and you can't shake it and you dream about it, and when you want to walk away from it, you still dream, that's God telling you to keep going. And if I can tell you anything else, please keep going.
How do you introduce a man like Tyler Perry? I can say this, he's one of the most influential people in the world. And you know him from a prolific filmmaker, writer, director, actor, entrepreneur. Tyler's a one-of-a-kind type of man, but you know him as Madea, but let me tell you this. Tyler is a man of God, a man of faith. He knows the Word. You're going to be blessed today. Come on, Lakewood. Mr. Tyler Perry here with us today. Come on, give him a good welcome. Thanks, Tyler.
Yes, sir.
Awesome to have you. Please
you.
have a seat here. Please be seated, you all. Thank you so much.
I'm still on that song. We go from glory to glory to glory.
We're going to keep going.
Forever change.
That's so good. Well, we're going to talk for a few minutes, then I'll turn Tyler loose. I won't stay up here the whole time.
I want to talk about this chair. I want you to get some size-appropriate chairs for people like me and John Gray, so we'll have some, so we don't have to squeeze in and hope that we hold up here.
That's so funny. Oh, Tyler.
Can I say thank you for having me here?
Oh,
thank you so
awesome
much.
to have
I'm
you.
absolutely honored.
Awesome to have you.
God
Well,
bless you. Thank you.
I get a kick because I can't help it, Tyler, because I do this to you every time. Whenever I look at you, I think of Madea. I can't help it, but let me ask you this. I did a radio interview with Tyler. I asked him, I said something about coming to Lakewood. Do you remember how you answered as Madea?
As soon as you get a smoking section, I'll be right there somewhere in the back. I don't know why y'all ain't got no smoking section for people who like to smoke. They want to know God, just put a smoking section in the back next to a bar and we'll sit there all day and listen to you.
Well, somehow we got you here without the smoking section, but anyway.
That's right. She's not coming until you get one. She's not coming until you get one. You want to reach the lost, put in the smoking section, man. Come on.
Well, Tyler, we all know you as, like I said when I introduced you, your films, your movies, we all see that, but it didn't start off like that for you. You didn't necessarily come from a functional family.
No.
And I'd like to go back and, I was very moved when we did the interview on Sirius about how you got underneath the porch when you were a little boy to escape the pain, and you told stories and your imagination. Can you share a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, well, it was a very, very difficult time. I was a child that was born to two wounded parents, and they were wounded children themselves. My mother was 17 and my father was about 19 when they got married, and I came along when she was 24 years old. And there was a lot of pain in the house. There were a lot of arguments. He was very physically abusive and verbally abusive to the both of us. It was really a difficult and very hard time, especially for a man child. I don't know what it's like for a little girl, but I'm sure it's just as painful. But for a boy child, a man child, to watch his mother being beaten and belittled, it was really, really hard. So I went under the house and I built this little, put some wood up in between some of the pillars and built this little safe place for me. And I painted it robin egg blue. I had found some paint somewhere, painted it blue, and I would sit in this room and I would let my imagination take me to other places. I would just be somewhere running through grass and trees while I'm listening to all of the pain and all of the heartache up above me in the floorboards. So it was a very difficult time, but the beauty in that moment, and I say this to people all the time, is that I know that all things work together for your good. When I am writing a script or a movie, or writing the Have and Have-Nots, or if Loving You Is Wrong, or writing any of these shows or movies, in my imagination, I go to a place where I'm in that world. And that was formed and born inside of all that pain. So the little boy's imagination is where the man goes now to feed his dreams. So it's a beautiful thing when you know that all things are going to work together for your good.
God was getting you prepared even back there.
Yeah.
And so we'll jump around a little bit. Tyler, you know, you graduated from high school, you had the dream for the play, but it wasn't easy and doors didn't necessarily open. And I love the thing about the hurricane in South Carolina. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, it was, I started doing this play after watching the Oprah Winfrey show. She said it was cathartic to write things down. Now, I didn't know what cathartic meant, so I had to go find a dictionary. So I'm saying in high school. I went and found a dictionary and I started writing things down in this journal, and I was using different characters' names because if someone found it, I didn't want them to know that I had been through the things that I was talking about. I was talking about adult survivors of child abuse at the time. So in 1993 or so, I moved to Atlanta. I moved in 92. In 93, I decided to put the play up, worked, saved money, my tax returns from H&R Block, did everything I could to put this show up. And I spent all my money. There was a 200-seat theater. I thought we would do all of these different shows over the weekend, and 1,200 people would show up, and only 30 did. So I lost everything I had. My car payment, everything was tied up in it. And it was a very, very difficult time because I know I felt led to do this show about adult survivors of child abuse who had forgiven their abusers. Out of the 30 people, and I knew every one of them in the room, there was somebody who said, this really touched me and I want to invest. That's how you know when God is doing something for you, because he'll put you on a path, and just when you think you're at the end, somebody or someone will show up and say, hey, here's another opportunity over here. So from about 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, we did this play once a year, everywhere, in these little small towns outside of Atlanta, and they never worked. They never worked. Every time I'd go, something would happen. I'd go get a job, and I'd go, you know, after I'd work on the job for a couple of weeks, I get a call saying, hey, Tyler, we want to try the play somewhere else. And I go to my boss and I say, listen, I need 2 weeks off to go do this play. He's like, man, you just been working here 2 weeks. How do you think you can get 2 weeks off? And I go back to my desk and I sit and I pray and I was like, okay, God, I know I just got this job. I know I just did the play, it didn't work. I got another opportunity here. If this is you telling me, make it plain. What should I do? And I hear this voice say, quit. Now, I'm not telling you to go quit your job. I'm telling you my story. Quit your job, send me your bill, say, you told me to quit. No, that's not what I'm saying. So there I was, stepping out on faith, leaving a job that I knew that this money was going to come in from week to week to go out and do this play because I heard the voice of God. So I remember every time I'd go out to do the show, it wouldn't work. It wasn't successful. And I'm like, God, I know you told me to do this. And when I'd pray, I'd hear nothing. That same voice that said, quit, I heard nothing, which was a very difficult time for me, very difficult. And I remember the time that you're talking about was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I had gotten another job because I had more jobs. Man, I had about 20 jobs during this time. I'd gotten another job, asked the boss, he said no. I heard the voice, quit. I go out, do the show, and I'm driving there, and there's a hurricane headed toward Spartanburg. Hurricane. I'm like, God, I know you control the wind and the waves, but you told me to quit, and now nobody's going to show up. So I lost everything. Homeless, sleeping in my car, following God. When you follow God, sometimes things get tough, they get tight. But if you keep pushing just on the other side of when you think it's the darkest, something miraculous will happen that will change your life. Something will open up that will blow your mind. So it was 1998, and I got an opportunity to do the show again, and it was at the House of Blues. And I was like, I don't know, I'm done. I'm gonna do like my mother said. My mother, who loved me dearly. We were doing a play at that Spartanburg trip, and I couldn't afford to pay the credit card because she had rented a van for us. And that bill was $300. And $300 to my mother was like 30 million. Let me tell you something. My mother loved me to death, sweet, wonderful woman, but she would cuss you out and beat you up and then pray for you as she's taking you to the hospital. That's the kind of person she was. So we were sitting in the house and she was saying, listen, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of you doing these plays. Just stop it. I'm tired of you crying about it. And the woman loved me more than anything. She said, you know what, just give it up. Just go get your job working at the phone company. You're never going to make it with these plays. Just go get a job at the phone company. I was sitting there in tears when she was saying it to me. She turned around and she saw me because I was sitting behind her on the sofa, and the blood drained from her face. And she said, baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how important this was for you. But what I want you to understand is that I don't care how many people love you and encourage you, or the ones that try to tear you down or destroy you. When God has a dream for you, it is your dream. Your dream. your dream. And there are people who love you who will think that they're saying the right things to you to try to protect you. Or there are people that have been in your lives and watched you grow up, and they don't know what God has put down inside of you because they think they're too familiar with you. But what you have to understand is when God has something for you, you have to go for it fully. So that's what I did. I did the show. I get this opportunity to do the show in 1998. It's at the House of Blues. And I walk in and I'm mad. And I'm angry because all those years, those 7 years of me trying to get this play up, nothing was happening. God would tell me to quit, then he'd get me out there and he'd leave me. You leave me out here by myself. God, where are you? You wouldn't even talk to me during these dark times. So I was mad. I was done. I had went to get my application at South Central Bell, like my mother said, and go to work at the phone company. I wanted some benefits to get my teeth fixed. So there I am. 1998, get this opportunity at the House of Blues, and I walk in and they're all they call it folk art all over the walls. I'm from New Orleans. I said, that's voodoo, and I'm not performing here. Get it off the walls. So they told me the next day, well, House of Blues was pulling out. So House of Blues was gone. So the name of the place would return to its original name. It was a church. It was called the Tabernacle. So I was about to perform in a place called the Tabernacle. I go and I do the show, and I'm complaining all the way. I'm there putting on my makeup, getting ready to play the old man Joe, and I got attitude. I'm just mad. I'm upset. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I hear that voice, that one that told me to quit, say, shut up. Let me tell you something. When God tells you shut up, you sit around like, what happened? And he said, get up and look out the window. I got up and looked out of this little dusty window, and there was a line around the corner trying to get in the building. And the place sold out over and over and over again. And I said, God, where were you in all those times? He said, I was proving you to see that you would honor this, that you would do the right thing with it. Sometimes when you're not hearing from God, God is trying to see what you're going to do in the situation that you're in. And it turned out to be an incredible moment that has taken me from that sold out house all the way until every show that we've done. It's been incredible. It's been miraculous. It's been nothing but God, and I'm grateful for it.
That's so awesome. That's, Tyler, another important part of the story. Jump back there a little bit because your father didn't treat you right, a lot of bitterness, anger. Can you tell about how something broke there when you?
Yeah, what broke in the moment, if you wonder what happened, like from the time when I started doing these shows to the time when they started to take off, what broke in the moment? Well, here I was with this script about adult survivors of child abuse whose parents had abused them. And the characters in the show that I had written from my own mind had forgiven their abusers, but I hadn't forgiven my father. So one day we were on the phone before this show sold out, before everything changed. We were on the phone, and I got a chance to just say everything that was on my mind because I wasn't the little boy anymore. I was a 6'6" man, and I wasn't afraid. And I started saying everything that I needed to say to him. And the things that came out of my mouth blew my mind. But at the end of it, what I heard was, I forgive you. I said, I forgive you to him. And something shifted in me. Something shifted. Let me tell you something. Forgiveness is so incredibly powerful. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you. There are people living their lives who've done you wrong. They are happy walking down the street, not even thinking about you, but there you are holding on to unforgiveness. When I forgave this man, I found myself I was lost for a second because my entire fuel was based on the negativity of not forgiving him. But once I forgave him, I had to find a way to find another source of fuel. So the negativity and all the darkness that I'd been through was the source. Now I needed a more positive source. Now I needed a good source, a pure source. It's like taking a car that runs on diesel and putting regular gasoline in it. And then all of a sudden you say drive and something's going to go wrong. So you have to rework all the components inside of your mind to be able to understand how to function in positivity. So that shift for me was so incredible. Forgiveness did all of that for me. And the minute I did that, the minute I started to function and doing the right thing and being positive, I went from nobody coming to the show to not having enough seats for the people to get into the places.
Wow. Powerful.
Yeah.
I went up a few months ago, Tyler, and we toured your facility, your studio. You bought 300 acres, the old Army base. And
Fort McPherson, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that, and then I love about the entries, about what you did there.
Yeah.
Just first off, it's a place, it's a studio where he's got probably 20 big studios where they shoot some of the biggest shows that we see on television today. Well, Tyler remodeled it. It's a magnificent place, but tell me a little bit about that other part.
I was telling Pastor Joel this, when you come to the studio, when you drive in, there's only a couple of ways to get in, but when you drive in, you have to go through the gates. And what we did at the gates were we buried Bibles. So in order to come into the facility, you got to come over the Word. Yeah. And when you leave out, you got to do the same. So you're blessed going and coming. And we put them under the foundations of all of the sound stages, and people, you should see people who don't know God. It's so funny. They're sitting around going, there's something very different about this place. The atmosphere here is really cool, don't you think? I said, yeah, I know. You can come stand right here for a little bit and tell me how cool it is.
Tell me, Tyler, the old buildings there, about the presidents that say there in the letter you found.
All of these, let me tell you how wonderful this country is. I don't care what's going on in the country. This is a wonderful country. And the beauty of this moment, me being invited here, looking at all your faces, all different races sitting here together, serving one God, that's all that matters, the one God that we serve. The reason I brought that up is because here was an Army base that was established 20 years after the abolishment of slavery. That was once a Confederate Army base that I now own. Wow. I mean, the miracle in that alone, Some of these houses were built in the 1800s, and President Roosevelt stayed there, Colin Powell stayed there, and we were doing some cleanup on one of them. They're beautiful houses, but some of them had some asbestos, so we brought in an asbestos team to remove it, and we had, after they left out, my cleaning crew went in from the studio, and they moved this cabinet that had been there for many, many years, and something fell out. It was a letter. They brought the letter to me, and I started reading it. When I read it, I got tears in my eyes, because what I realized is that this letter was written to me. But the letter was written October 29, 1969, by a 13-year-old boy in Atlanta, Georgia. He goes on to tell all these stories in the letter, and he's writing it about where he's come from, the country's at war, Nixon is the president. He's saying all this stuff, but there's one line in that really caught my attention. He said, I know this sounds silly, but I've always wanted to write a letter to the future. So he wrote the letter October 29, 1969. Well, I was born September 14th, 1969. So I had only been on the planet 6 weeks. I'm there in my mother's arms in New Orleans. And there's a little 13-year-old boy at Fort McPherson Army Base in Atlanta writing a letter to the future that I would find 48 years later. And I realized I am the future that he was writing to. And it came at a time when I was going through some things and I had to make some decisions about the studio, and it blew my mind, because there I was in this moment understanding that God had already ordained this even before I got to the planet. It was so powerful for me. So powerful, so wonderful. And I just felt so blessed and so fortunate. I still have a letter, and I have it framed. And every time I'm going through something or deal with something, I walk past it and I'm reminded, God's got it. God's got it. Everything's all right. God's got it. Yeah.
That's so good. Tyler, somebody asked you about all your failures. Explain that.
Yeah, this shocked a few people. They said, let's talk about your failures. I said, I don't have any. And I tell you why. I tell you why I say that. Because when you know that everything in your life is going to work together for your good. Listen, I look back on all the things in my life that I thought, that should have been a failure, that should have been a failure, that should have been. But when I really analyzed it, I realized those were teaching moments, those were molding moments, those were moving moments. And I realized, had that not happened, I wouldn't have been ready for this moment. Or had that situation not gone on, I wouldn't have been ready to go here. Had I not been able to live at that altitude, I wouldn't have been able to stand at this altitude. So what happened to me, as I look back on all those moments, I don't call them failures. I call them the grace of God, because it had brought me right where I needed to be.
I love it. He's directing our steps.
Right
love it.
where I needed to be.
All right. Shift gears a minute. Where did Madea come from?
Oh, Lord. You jump one
I
big
can't
gear
find
right
her in
there.
the Bible.
No, you can't find it in the Bible. You won't find it anywhere in the Bible.
Madea, I have an aunt who lives here in Houston, and her name is Mayola Ciparan. And she and my mother, they're a cross between, Medea's a cross between both of those ladies. And you wouldn't want to run into either one of them in a dark alley late at night, because you try to snatch their purse, you're going to get snatched up. But I saw Eddie Murphy do his hand at, playing an old woman in the clumps, and I said, okay, I'm going to try my hand at it. And that's where this character was born. But the power of it, as silly as it is, there's a power in it. Here's the power in it. It was the anesthetic that I used to make people laugh, to get to some very serious subject matter. People found themselves coming into these arenas and laughing really hard. And then I started talking about forgiveness. They're laughing really hard. I started talking about getting over pain and molestation and rape, all the things that are plaguing us as a society that we were ignoring and that weren't getting any attention. So I found that if I can make you laugh, I can use this as a teachable moment. So it became very, very important to me. As much as I don't like doing the character, I realized what it has done for many people. And I got a letter from someone. This is one, I got plenty of them, but this one was really powerful. It's about a woman who said she was going to commit suicide. So she got her kids together, and she went to a hotel, and she wanted to spend the last day with them. She said, we're going to do whatever you guys want to do. Whatever you want to do, we'll do. And she sent me this letter. This is before Facebook and all these other things. So I get this letter, and she's talking about what they wanted to do. They decided they wanted to see a Tyler Perry play. So she went and found one on bootleg. She brought it back to the hotel, and they watched it. Yeah, it's all right. And they watched it. But y'all don't buy bootleg. I know. But they watched it, and what happened was, as she was watching it, she started to laugh, and she started to be healed. And she sent me this letter saying, I no longer want to die. I feel like I can live and move on after seeing this play.
So good.
Yeah.
Last thing, Tyler, and I'll step down. I want to turn it over to you for your message. But we're all trying to reach dreams today, and it's not easy. And you've hit the success. But give us some encouragement. What's a final thought for us on this segment?
Listen. Don't give up. I know that sounds simple, but don't give up. If you go to bed with it, and you wake up with it, and you can't shake it, you go get a job and that dream is still in the back of your head. You're working for somebody else, but that dream is still in the back of your head. You're getting up every morning, 5 in the morning, going on somebody else's job. Let me tell you something. Honor that person that you're working for. Listen, because when you're faithful over someone else's, God will give you your own. So make sure you honor the person that you're working for. But at the same time, don't give up. The mantra at my studio is a place where even dreams believe. Because when I think about Joseph, he went through so much before he got into his promise. He was in jail. He got all these things happen to him. But when it got really bad and he gave up or wanted to give up, the dream reminded him that he can go on. So if it's in you and you can't shake it and you dream about it, and when you want to walk away from it, you still dream, that's God telling you to keep going. And if I can tell you anything else, please keep going. There are people whose lives and destiny are tied into you. Just think, had you stopped, all of these people, where would we be going to worship and hear a positive message? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't stop. Keep going. No matter what anybody says, you are worth it. And here's the thing about worthy. Get to worthy. Whatever you do, get to worthy. What does that mean? Understand that you are worth it. You deserve the good things. If God said it, you deserve it. And he did. His thoughts of you are pure, and he wants to give you a hope. You better grab me right now, because I'm getting ready to go somewhere on this thing right here.
Go ahead, it's yours.
But just don't give up. If I can tell you anything, don't give up. Don't give up.